All right, and good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another edition of Tech 101 by Hacker Trail. All right, thanks again for joining us tonight. My name is Edric, and I will be your host tonight. We've actually got a couple more minutes before we start the workshop, so I would really like to encourage you to take the opportunity to join and link up with all your fellow techies on the Hacker Trail community by scanning the QR code that you have on screen right now. And you can also click the link www.hackertrail.com, which is in your chat right now. All right. And when you join this community, you're going to be able to connect with today's guest speaker as well and other fellow techies to discuss collaborations on potential career defining projects. All right. You're going to also find open positions offered by top companies such as Accenture, StarHub, Dell, and Visa. Before we begin, let's start off with a couple of fun facts related to CSS/HTML development and our speaker, Elad himself. All right, we've got some trivia, don't we? All right, trivia number one, what you are seeing on screen right now. All right, what's Elad's favorite musical of all time? Wicked, Cats, Phantom of the Opera, or Chicago? Now, one thing about Elad that you probably don't know, right, is that he is really a bona fide musical aficionado. So, that being said, based on the musicals that are available, I think you could probably guess which one. All right. Now, I'd love to give a hint, but to be honest, I don't even know the answer. So I can't really help you there, people. Give it a shot. Which score do you like the most? Or if you don't like musicals, maybe you could Google it right now and see which one is the highest rated one. Maybe that could give you a hint. All right. But personally, for me, I've seen, I don't know, somehow or other, I've enjoyed Phantom of the Opera for years already, especially the opening sequence of the giant chandelier falling. That's been super awesome. Okay, so do we have the polls in yet? I'm wondering. Let's see. What is the answer? Do we have that? Or have you not placed in your answers yet? Ooh. This is cool. Okay, so everybody's been guessing Phantom of the Opera, mainly. That is 62%, right? And Cats and Chicago are tied. This is very interesting. Nobody likes Wicked. I don't get it. Okay, well, let's move on to trivia number 2. Later on, we will definitely ask Elad himself about which is his favorite. Okay, so bear that in mind. Remember it for me. I have a bad memory. Help me out here. How many countries has Elad been to in the last 6 months? Okay, now I'm going to tell you this, okay? Don't think about the Singaporean perspective that you have nowhere to go. All right? I'll give you a hint. Okay, he has been to enough countries than we have malls in the last 6 months. Okay, I'll give you a hint. So check it out, try. Give it a shot. Fact of the matter is that he is based overseas, so in Europe, so he gets to move around quite freely. Whereas us in Singapore, on the other hand, well, leaving the house already, you start to question your values and your morals already, huh? All right, come on. Get your polls in, get your polls in, get your polls in. And let's get to know Elad a little bit better through these 2 questions. All right, let's give that a minute, and the answers should pop up. This is interesting. More than 10 or 3. Wow, this is quite a dichotomy you've created, Elad. Thank you very much. Okay, so we will come back to this. Remember your answers and let's see what happens, okay? All right, as people are starting to roll in, I'd just like to share a little bit more about some fun facts about CSS. Okay, did you know that the CSS is awesome is the most famous CSS meme? And it's actually a feature, it's not a bug. This happens due to three things. Content doesn't fit into its container. Container can't expand to fit the content, and the overflow CSS property has its default to visible. I need someone to explain this to me because I do not understand it. That's why you guys are here, all right? To learn and also to share. You guys can school me. All right. CSS is probably the hardest programming language in the world, according to a survey conducted in 2020 among 50,000 developers globally. Y'all are awesome. If you know how to do CSS, y'all are awesome. Okay. Top 10 CSS projects ideas for beginners include solar system animation, day-night toggles, custom map creators, and improving the speed of a website. But according to Elad, apparently creating a game was simple. All right, so he's going to share a lot more and see how that goes as we go along as well. Okay, so that being said, I believe all the polls have come in already. Do we have the answers for the polls, or should we wait for Elad to tell us himself? But okay, never mind. Moving along, do us a favor oh, hello, there we are. Okay, sorry, that just popped up on my screen. All right, so do us a favor. All right, we're going to take a quick poll to get a sensing of who is in the audience today. All right, we've got quite a number of people here, and we would like to find out whether or not, number one, are you a fresh grad who wants to get tips in coding? Are you a mid-career switcher? Are you a UI UX designer that would like to understand CSS, HTML a little bit more? And or would you like to become a full stack developer and CSS, HTML knowledge, and that is essential? All right, or do you fall under others? All right, please let us know, because again, a lot of our content moving forward is always catered to you, our audience. So the more information you're able to give us, the better content, the more accurate we can find the speakers that can best help in this journey of discovery through the to the Hacker Trail community. All right, so do us a favor, quickly just put in which I would say which category you would like to fall into, or you would categorize yourself, and then we can move forward. Okay, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fourth episode. Welcome to the fourth episode of our Tech 101. If you haven't joined us before, all right, you might not be aware that this is a web engagement series that aims to help techies like yourself land their dream jobs and boost their tech career. Now, one of the things that we always do here is that make sure you join the community. Number one, as you've seen, there's a QR code. There's also a website that you can join, hackertrail.com. Now, one of the things that we always do is please take part in all the polls, and one person can win an exclusive coaching session, all right, that Elad himself will be able to answer and assist you in those questions that you have in CSS after this. Of course, this will be a one-to-one session that we'll do exclusively if you join the Hacker Trail community and take part in all our polls and trivia. All right, we also encourage asking all the questions that you have for the speaker throughout the live event. Type them into the chat. Do add in whatever you need to add in, and if in the event we do not have enough time, all right, Elad will answer these questions in the Tech 101 community at hackertrail.com/community/company/tech101. The link is in the chat box right now. If you're facing any technical issues, raise your hand or send a message to my colleague Daryl, and he will attend to you to assist and make sure that this session goes really, really smooth. All right, so again, quick recap here. Join the Hacker Trail community, take part in all our polls, and stand to win to get an exclusive coaching session with Elad. All right, so without further ado, okay, let's move on from the poll, please. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker for today. That would be Elad Schechter of YAD2. Elad is a web developer with over 10 years of experience, and he specializes in the use of HTML and CSS. His experience has led him to propose a new standard for web browsers and developers alike, entitled The New CSS Reset. Elad feels the best way forward for the community is through combining both the hardline approach of the original CSS reset and the more conciliatory stance of normalized CSS. Tech101 is also not his first stab at giving back to the community. Elad is the founder of CSS Masters Israel and has also been invited to speak at international venues such as Geek Camp, the Angular Global Summit, and DevFest. Without further ado, let's welcome Elad to take the virtual stage. Elad, on behalf of the audience and the team, thank you so much for joining us. I will give you the applause, all right, since the cameras are off at the moment. All right, it's a pleasure to learn from you and about the web development projects that you have and all the other passion projects that we talked about, off camera. Elad, all yours.
Thank you. I will share my screen and we will see that we're seeing everything. Okay, you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, let's start. The coronavirus pandemic has disrupted our life in so many ways. Even for me, that I just started to talk in physical conferences around the world in the end of the year of 2019, all the conferences that came after the physical one has been canceled. And in this situation in life, you maybe can be sad, but from my perspective for life, we don't have time to be sad. Life are so short, and because of that, we always need to think about how to create a good situations from the bad ones. And this is exactly what I've done when the coronavirus pandemic started. In the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic time, we had a lot more time to spend at home. And in the first few days, I was rearrange my apartment, move everything, change everything, open my sofa to a bed that sometimes I can sleep in my living room. The aquarium that didn't work for 5 years, I put some water and some fishes and everything to create a good mood to stay at home. And then came the first weekend that we cannot go out anywhere. And I thought to myself, what I will do with all my free time in this weekend? And I remember that several years ago, I created a pure CSS game, which is called Kill the Birds, that so many web developers all around the world loved it very much. But I thought to myself that in the last several years, I learned so many new tricks in CSS that now I can create a lot better one. But I needed an idea of what it will be about. And it was one of the most easiest ideas that I had in my life. Because if we are now living in the coronavirus pandemic time, why not to create the coronavirus game? And this is exactly what I've done. I created this pure CSS game, which is called the Coronavirus Invaders. And everything that you're seeing right now is done only while using CSS and HTML. Yes, for the CSS part, I'm using CSS preprocessors. And even for the HTML part, I'm using an HTML preprocessor. But all the logic of the game, like when I'm clicking on this OMI button and it's opening a pop-up, and the closing logic pop-up is done only while using CSS and HTML. And when I will click the Save the World button, the play button of the game, it will hide the game navigation and will open the game frame itself. Even that is done only while using CSS and HTML. And when I will click on some coronavirus creature, they will be disappear and the score of the game will go up. Even that is done only while using CSS and HTML. And what about the countdown? No, really? The countdown is built only while using CSS. But before you're writing any single line of code in your own project, you need to think about something that inspires you. And I don't know why, I remember an old code pen that was painted on Canvas HTML in the middle of the year of 2019. And these creatures remind me a little bit the coronavirus creature. And I needed to think about a name for the game and how to design the main navigation. And I don't know why I remember the Chicken Invaders game. And I took the Invaders word and some other design ideas on how to design the main navigation. And when you are thinking about inspiration, is always to take other older ideas and to create from them something else, something new. And the first thing that I wanted to create in my own project is to create the coronavirus creatures. And it's nice to see that this was my inspiration, but in the end that I created something else different and I love it because this is more my creature. And then I started to create the HTML of the coronavirus creatures. And for me, the HTML is very important. It's not just to take HTML element and to throw them to an HTML document. No, this is an object of HTML of coronavirus creature, and it needs to be very precise. Then I created this label with the class of coronavirus, and inside I put an input type radio. And you may ask why to use here label HTML element and why there is an input type radio inside. This is part of the logic that we will talk about it little bit later. But all the visual part of the coronavirus creature are starting inside its body. We have the body of the coronavirus creature, and inside we have those 12 hairs, and of course, it's both eyes. But from the beginning, I saw that I have a lot of repetition in my code, like all those 12 hairs. And in the real game, I have 100 viruses. And I didn't want to copy paste them one by one. And I needed a way to think about a solution how to solve this problem without using any JavaScript. And to do that, in my first time in my life, I'm using here an HTML preprocessor with the name of Pug that gives us the possibility to create repetition in the HTML part without repeating ourselves. And for the CSS part, I'm using the CSS preprocessor of SAS that I'm using, I think, in the last 10 years for every one of my projects. And now, instead of doing this repetition in the HTML part, I can do it with Pug, with variables, while loop. But as you can see, Pug is written very different from regular HTML. Yes, it's being compiled to a regular HTML. But when you are working with Pug, you cannot write half Pug and half HTML. If you are working with Pug, you need to write everything in Pug. And this means that I needed to update all the part of the project in the HTML part to the new way of written, how Pug is being written. And yes, you need to get used to it. But all this project I was doing in 2 days in the weekend, and I was learning Pug. Meanwhile, I was creating this project. Everyone can learn Pug. It's really not so hard. And now I wanted to start to paint the visual part of the coronavirus creature. I started with the body. I gave it position relative. Why position relative? Because all the inner parts need to be according to its body. The body got width and height of 100 pixel, background color black, and to get the circle shape, I just gave it border radius of 50%. To create the whole of the eyes and to select, if you remember, the two classes of I1 and I2 together, I'm using here the attribute selector with the star character. This select me both classes of I1 and I2 together. And both of them got width and height, little bit different, background color white and border radius of 50%. Because the width and the height are a little bit different, and with the border radius, it's getting the egg shape that it's nice to get. To locate both of them, I gave both of them position absolute top 25%. The left eye, I1 from the left 25%. The right eye from the right 25%. And little bit rotate Z to the inside. To create the inner part of the eyes without adding another HTML element, I'm using the before pseudo element in both of the eyes. And in the same way, width, height, background color black, and border radius of 50%. And if you are looking what I created until now, is just circles, circles, and circles. To create the hairs of the coronavirus creature and to select all the classes, if you remember, between R1 until R12, I'm using again the attribute selector with the star character. And every one of the hairs is created from two boxes that I'm creating with the before and the after pseudo element. The after pseudo element is the root of the hair, and the crown of the hair is the before pseudo element that I'm putting up above. And to get the circle shape to the crown of the hair, how I'm doing it, I'm just giving it border radius of 50%. To locate all those hairs, first I gave them position absolute and locate all of the 12 exactly in the middle, in the center of the coronavirus creature. And now, one by one, with the transform property, I want to put them all around the coronavirus creature. How I'm doing it? L1 will get the transform property with a rotate Z value of 0 degrees that still doesn't do anything, and then translate Y value with a value of minus 65 pixel that taking the hair from the center to the top. But the second hair need to be top, but little bit to the right by 30 degrees. How I'm doing it? hair 2 will get a transform property with a rotate z value of 30 degrees and only then the translate y-axis of minus 65 pixel. And if you didn't know, the order in the value in the transform property are very important because they are affecting each other. And in this way, the second hair will be top, but a little bit to the right. And in this way, I just located all the 12 hairs of the coronavirus creature. As you can see here, different rotate z value and the same translate y value. But as you can see here, we have a lot of repetition in our code. And we as a web developers don't love to create repetition. How can we do it in another way? Because I'm working with the CSS preprocessor of Sass, in Sass, we can create Sass for loop. And this is exactly what I'm doing in my real project. First, I'm creating a Sass variable with the name of start position, and I'm giving it a value of 0 degrees. And then I'm creating the Sass for loop that have another Sass variable with the name of I that is going dynamically between 1 to 12. In every one of the iteration, this creating me dynamically a CSS selector between R1 until R12. In every one of the iteration, the Sass variable of start position is getting bigger by 30 degrees. And I'm just putting the Sass variable inside the rotate z value and inside the transform property. And this for loop just created me now this CSS. Nice. But I wanted this creature to feel a little bit more alive, and I wanted to edit some animations. And the problem that I had, that because every one of the hairs have a different transform value, I needed to create 12 different animations for every one of those hairs. And because I didn't want to write them one by one, I just created all the 12 animation inside the same for loop that locate me all those hairs. This way I'm creating 12 different animation dynamically. But I wanted this creature to feel a lot more alive, and I wanted to edit some more animations for the eyes, and I added 2 animations for the eyes. One for the inner part of the eyes that they will move a little bit, and the second animation, I wanted to create the effect that the eyes are getting closed. To do that, I'm using here the second pseudo element in every one of the eye, the after pseudo element. And it's inside the eye, the all of the eyes, and it has a width of 100%, height of 0 pixel, and background color black, and you don't see it. But in the animation of it, every 5 seconds in the animation, only in the last half second, it's getting a height of 100%. And in this way, the eyes are getting closed. Nice. But now let's talk about all the trick and all the logic of the game. And the first thing that you need to understand is to understand how to separate all the frames that we saw in our own game. And let's talk about game frames. And for that, let's take a look again on the game itself. The first frame, let's take it with a background image that we will see it better. The first frame, as you can see here, is the game menu frame. And this is our one frame that we need to represent in our HTML code. The second frame is when I will click on the How to Play button, it will open a pop-up. And yes, we can put frame above other frames. The third frame, in the same way, when I will click on the Who Am I button, it will open another pop-up. And this is the third frame that we need to represent in our HTML document. The last frame that we need to represent in our HTML document is when I will click the Save the World, the play button of the game, it will hide the game menu frame, and it will open the game frame itself, where we are playing the game. And this is our last 4 frame that we need to represent in our HTML document. To represent all those frames, I'm just creating 4 separated section HTML element. And as you can see by the class name and by the ID name, the first one is the game menu frame. The second one is the game frame itself. The third one is the pop-up of Who Am I? And the last one is the pop-up of How to Play. Nice. But when I'm loading the game, I want to see only the game menu frame. I don't want to see all the other frames. How I'm hiding all the other frames in a very easy way that maybe you already know. I'm just giving all the other frames display none. And in this way, I'm only seeing, when I'm loading the game in the first time, I'm only seeing the game menu frame. But now I need to create some flags that they will tell me if something needs to be open or something to be closed. How can I create flags without using any JavaScript? And if you are thinking about form HTML element like checkboxes, input of checkboxes, checkboxes are like flags. Unchecked, false. Checked, true. And this is exactly what I'm adding in the beginning of the HTML document. I'm adding 3 different checkboxes. Every one of them is doing different operation. Every one of those checkboxes have different ID name, as you can see here. For example, this checkbox that has the ID name of Toggle Game, if it's unchecked, this means that I want to see the game menu frame, but I want to hide the game frame. But if it will be checked, I want to do the opposite thing. I want to see the game frame, but to hide the game menu frame. The 2 other checkboxes are even more simple to understand. This checkbox that has the ID name of how to play pop-up, if it's unchecked, I don't want to see the how to play pop-up. And if it's checked, of course, I want to see the how to play pop-up. The same way for the third checkbox that has the ID name of my pop-up. If it's unchecked, don't show me the my pop-up. If you are checked, please show me the my pop-up. But those are just checkboxes that I'm putting in the beginning of the HTML document with opacity of 0, position absolute top minus something. You cannot click them and you cannot see them. And now we need a way to trigger those checkboxes without clicking on them specific. How can we do it? For that, I'm using a very old feature that we have in HTML from the beginning. The buttons in the game navigation buttons are not button HTML element. Instead, I'm using here label HTML element. And the power of the label HTML element that it can trigger any input that you want with the for attribute that can be connected to a specific ID name of every input that you want. For example, this save the world label button element, this one, you see save the world, the for attribute is being connected to the checkbox that has the ID name of Toggle Game, Toggle Game, Toggle Game. And this means that if I will click on this label button, it will trigger this checkbox and it will change its status from unchecked to status of checked. If you will click it again, it will change again from checked to unchecked, and as many times that you will click on it, okay? The same way for the 2 other label buttons. If I will click on the OMI, this one, it will trigger the checkbox that has the ID name of OMI pop-up. This one, it will change the status from unchecked to checked. If you click it again, it will change again from checked to unchecked. But this thing is only changing the statuses of those checkboxes. It still doesn't doing any operation beside changing those statuses. But now we need to use these statuses of those checkboxes to show or hide other frames in the game. And to do that, we are now using 2 special CSS features. The first special CSS feature is the check pseudo class. I can see if there is a specific checkbox that is in status of checked. And if there is a specific checkbox in the status of checked, I can go to any sibling element that come after with the sibling selector, and I can select the sibling element, and I can give it display block, display none. And in this way, I can show or hide other frames of the game. And this is exactly what I'm doing in my real game. For example, when I'm clicking on the how to play button, it's triggering the checkbox that has the ID name of how to play pop-up. And this checkbox that has this ID is now changing its status from unchecked to checked. And if it's now in status of checked, this selector will start to work for us. And if this checkbox is in status of checked, go to the sibling element that has the ID name of how to play. This is the real pop-up, and just give a display block. And in this way, we are now opening the pop-up. Nice. But now you need to ask yourself another question. How I'm closing the pop-up? And in this case of this how to play pop-up, when it's open, this means that this checkbox is in status of checked. And the only thing that we need to do to close it is to change the status from checked to unchecked. And to do that, the X button and the close button, again, are not button HTML element. Again, they are label HTML element. And in this case of this pop-up, they have the for attribute that is being connected to the same checkbox. And if I will click the X button or the close button, it will change the status of this checkbox from checked to unchecked. This selector will stop to work, and we will get the display none that we declared from the beginning. And now the pop-up will be closed. Nice. But now you need to ask yourself another question. What is happening if I will click the save the wall button? Yes, the first button, the play button of the game. When I'm clicking the save the wall button, the play button of the game, I need to do two operations instead of one. First, I need to take the game menu frame and to hide it. And then I need to take the game frame and to open it, to show it up. How can I do two operations instead of one with one specific checkbox? And it's really the same idea if you are thinking about it. The checkbox that has the ID name of Toggle Game, if it's checked, first go to the sibling element with class of game menu frame, and you give it display none. This way you are hiding the game menu frame. And after that, go to the sibling element with the class of game frame and give it display block. This way I'm opening the main game frame itself, where we are playing the game. And if we are thinking about it, I can do in this way as many operations that I want with one status of one specific checkbox. Nice. This way of written is of course written with Sass. You can write it in two separated CSS selectors, but it's a lot more readable to write it with Sass. Nice, nice. Let's continue for one of the most amazing tricks that I have in this game. And we actually have here two tricks that we need to talk about them. When I'm clicking the coronavirus creature, they are being disappeared from the screen. This is one trick. The second trick is that I need to count all those creatures that are being dead and to create the total score and to print into the screen. And now let's talk about these both tricks. If you remember in the beginning, I told you that every coronavirus creature is a label with class of coronavirus. And inside there is an input type radio. And I also told you that all the visual part of the coronavirus creature are in this div class body. This is the real visual part of the coronavirus creature, the body. And inside we have the eyes and the hairs, but all the visual parts are only in this div class body element, okay? And what I'm doing in the real game, I'm doing animation on the label of the coronavirus creature. And because the label of the coronavirus creature is wrapping all the visual part of the coronavirus creature is moving with it. And this means that if you are clicking on the visual part of the coronavirus creature, it's like you are clicking on the label HTML element. And if you are putting an input radio, for example, inside the label HTML element, it will automatically get triggered. You don't even need the for attribute and the ID name in this case, because the input is inside the label. And this means that I'm clicking on the visual part of the coronavirus creature is like I'm clicking on the label HTML element, that it will automatically trigger the input type radio that we have inside. And this will automatically change its status from unchecked to checked. This status of this input type radio that is in status of checked is telling us that the virus is being dead. And now we need to hide the visual part of the virus. To do that, I'm just selecting the input type radio that are in status of checked, go to the sibling element, the this div with class of body, as you can see here, and just give it opacity of 0. And in this way, when I'm clicking those coronavirus creature, they are being disappeared from the screen. And now we need to create the total score and to print it to the screen. To do that, I'm using a special CSS feature. This feature is called the CSS counters. And in order to the CSS counter to work properly, it needs to be defined before all the input type radio that we have in our own game. To do that, I'm just declaring it on the body HTML element. How I'm declaring a CSS counter? Selecting the body HTML element. I'm using here the property of counter reset. This creating me a new CSS counter. You can give here any name that you want. I gave it the name Corona. And now I need to count all those dead viruses. I'm selecting every input type radio that is in the status of checked, counter increment me the Corona value that we created here. And now we need to print the total score to the screen. In order to it to work correctly, it needs to be defined in the HTML part after all the coronavirus creature, after all those input type radio. And to do that, I'm just putting it in the bottom of the HTML document. Div class sum, the text score is coming from the HTML, and I want to print here the total score. To do that, I'm selecting this class of sum, as you can see here, using the after pseudo element that will print me here what I want to print. I'm using here the property of content that can get the native CSS counter function that can get the corona value that we incremented here and created here. And in this way, it's always listening and printing the total score to the screen. Because it's a very complicated example, I want to show you this in a real live code example. As you can see here, I kind of create 5 of coronavirus creature. There is a label, there is an input type radio that you can see here, and all the visual part of the virus, this is the big black circle, is this div with the class of body. In the real game, the eyes and the ears are inside, okay? Inside the body. Okay. And as you can see, I kind of created 5 coronavirus creature, and here I put it a place to summarize the total score, div class sum. The text score is coming from the HTML. The numbers are coming from the CSS. To declare a CSS counter, I'm creating it on the body HTML element, counter reset, and I gave it the name corona. And now I want to count all those coronavirus creatures that are being dead. This means that I need to count all the input type radio that are in status of checked. Input type radio, if you're in status of checked, counter incrementing the corona value that we declared on the CSS counter on the body HTML element. Beside of it, if the input type radio is in status of checked, go to the sibling element with the class of body and give it opacity of 0. You see, if this input type radio will be checked, all the visual part of the coronavirus creature that are here, they will be disappear. And to summarize the total score, I'm selecting this class of sum and with the after pseudo element. Using the content property, this will print me here what I want to print. I'm using here the CSS native counter function that printing me the corona value that we incremented here and created here. Let's see that it really works. I'm clicking on those coronavirus creatures that are being disappear. You can even see the radio button is being checked. In the real game, the radio button just having opacity of 0. And in this way, I'm creating a pure CSS score for a pure CSS game. Nice, nice. Let's continue to our next amazing trick. Pure CSS countdown without any JavaScript. Let's see this in a real live code demo. As you can see here, the numbers are not coming from the HTML. They are coming from animation that I'm doing on the content property in CSS. What does it mean? As you can see here, there is only one number that is going between 9 to 0. But here we have a number that is going between 99 to 0. And we actually have here 2 separated strings that doesn't have any connection between of them. This is the before pseudo element, and this is the after pseudo element. That you will understand exactly what's happening here. Let's print here the text AA. And you will see that these both numbers are being separated. They don't really have any connection. They're only looking like one number that is going in every 1 second, one number down, but it's only because the animation is very, very precise. And let's explain you how the animation is working. Let's reset the animation. And the first value, as you already know, is the before pseudo element of this element, okay? The before pseudo element. And I'm calling the animation of countdown. This animation. And this is for the first value. This is the before pseudo element. And I'm telling the animation to work 100 seconds and 1 iteration. 100 seconds, and we have total of 10 frames. This means that every 10 seconds will go one number down, 20 another, 30 another, and so on and so on. And after 1 iteration, the first value, I want it to be stuck on the last frame of the animation, on the 0 value. To do that, I'm just putting here the special forward keyword value that telling the animation to be stuck on the last frame of the animation after you have finished all your iteration. For the second value, this is the after pseudo element. I'm calling the same animation, but now in a different way. I'm calling the animation to work for 10 seconds and 10 iteration. 10 seconds, 10 frames. This means that every 1 second will go number down. Another second, another. And when it will finish the first iteration, it will do it again for another 9 iteration Why? Because I declared here that I want animation for 10 iteration. And after all those 10 iteration, I want this second value to be stuck again on the last frame animation of 0. And to do it, I'm just putting here the forwards value that telling the animation, when you are finished, please be stuck on the last frame of the animation. And let's see that it really works. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and finish. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, now let's talk about another amazing thing that we can create here in this project. First, I wanted to show you why I wanted to create random stuff in my own project. And to do that, let's take a look at the game itself. Here, when I'm playing, you can see that the virus have kind of a random location. And in the real game, every virus has 6 different random locations on the y-axis. And even the scale of the virus is being randomized, and even the rotation of it is being randomized. But wait a minute, how can we create random stuff in CSS? We can't, but we can do it with Sass. Because it's a very important example, I want first to show you this in the real code of the game. You need to understand that if every virus have different location, it's meaning that I needed to create 100 different CSS animation. And because I didn't want to write them one by one, you maybe can guess how I've done it. And to do that, I've just created a Sass for loop that is running 100 iteration and created me dynamically this animation 100 times. Every one of the viruses have 6 different locations in the game. The translate X is always the same, but in the translate Y, I'm using here the Sass random function, and I'm telling it to randomize me a value between 1 to 80 and just doubling it in 1VH. Even for the scale, I'm using the random function, and even for the rotation, I'm using the random function. That you will not be afraid from this random function, I want to show you another example for the random function. Let's see this code pen. Let's see the HTML that you won't see it in Pug and you will be afraid from it. Just regular HTML. Yes, 6 empty li HTML element. The numbers that you are seeing inside are not coming from the HTML. They are coming from the CSS. And what I've done here in the Sass code, I created the Sass for loop that is running 6 iteration. In every one of the iteration, this creating me dynamically all the classes between class 1 to class 6. And in every one of the iteration on the before pseudo element, on the content property, I'm using the Sass random function that randomizes me a value between 1 to 80 and just doubling it in 1VH. And for you to believe me, those values are really randomized. Let's do a small change in the code, and we will see that the numbers are being changed. And to do that, the only thing that I need to do is to press enter, and the Sass will be compiled again to a new CSS. And as you can see, the values are being changed and changed and changed. Nice. That you understand exactly what's happening here, because Sass code is always being compiled to CSS. Here it's how it's look when it's being compiled. Yes, the browser cannot load Sass code. It's always loading CSS code, regular CSS code. And in order to this string to change, you need to compile the Sass code again and again and again. If you are loading the same CSS, it will be stuck on the same values all the time. Okay, nice. Let's continue to our next trick. In the end of the game, I'm putting a game over curtain, and I wanted to create the effect that the player can play this game again and again and again. But the problem that I had to solve, I understand in order that the player will be back to the game menu navigation, I need to reset all the checkbox that was being checked to unchecked. And in order to the score to be reset, I need to reset all the radio buttons that were checked to unchecked. And what I've done here, this special back to main menu button, it's not a label HTML element. Instead, I'm using in this specific case, an input with type of reset. And this special input type reset, what that it does, if I'm wrapping all my project with the form HTML element and everything it's inside the form HTML element, when you will click on this input type of reset, it will automatically reset all the radio button, all the checkbox from that was in status of check to unchecked, this will bring us automatically to the game menu navigation. And now you can play this game again and again and again. And the last question that you need to ask yourself, how can I know exactly when to put this game over curtain? I need to put it exactly after 99 seconds. How can I do it? And this is one of the most easiest tricks that I have in this game. Everyone knows that animation can get animation duration, that telling the animation how much time it's need to be take, this value, yes? But we are often forget that we have the special property of animation delay, that telling the animation after how much time you need to be start. And in the real game, I'm just putting here 99 seconds. For this example, I only put here 5 seconds that we don't need to wait 99 seconds. And for you to believe me that it's so easy, let's refresh the screen and we will count together between 1 to 5, and we will see that the game over curtain is loading. Let's do it. Let's refresh and we will count together. Refresh. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Game over. Nice, nice. Okay, we saw here a lot of CSS tricks that with them you can create a pure CSS games. And maybe you think that this is the main key takeaways that I want you to take from this talk, but it isn't. The most important thing that I want you to take from this talk is to create your own project and only for fun. Not for your studying, not for your working, not for your friend, only for yourself and only for fun, not for money, only for playing with code. And why it's so important to play with code? When you are playing, this is the best way for your brain to learn new stuff. When we are adult, we are forgetting it. We're starting to learn things in the boring way. Instead of creating, it's more fun. If you create a project for yourself, you are enjoying. And if you are enjoying, you don't care if it's hard or not, you are enjoying. And it's a lot less frustrating when something doesn't work. You are trying and you will succeed in the end. And in this way, you will be a better web developer. And in the end, you will get a better salary. And even this is not important, because the most important thing in life is to have fun, create your own project, because you can create stuff. Enjoy this possibility. Before we finish, my friend, and go to the question part and other part, I'm Elad Shechter. I'm a CSS HTML architect. I'm doing a lot of stuff on CSS. The best thing to see the new stuff that I'm doing is to follow me via Twitter. You can see all my other articles in my Medium account and all my other stuff in my own website. And thank you very much for listening.
Oh, that was fantastic, Elad. Thank you so much for that and running us through the game that you built purely on CSS, right? And not only that, it is something that I think when you made this game, right, were you also trying to prove a point that it can be done in CSS instead of anything that was actually a lot more visual or graphical in nature?
I think the main reason that I've done it is that I have free time and I wanted to have fun in code. I think it's connected to the part that we are always think about how to work and how to make money. And one of the most important things that when we are a web developer is, or in life, it doesn't matter what you do. It's you want to enjoy the thing that you're doing. Because if you are not enjoying life, why we are doing everything? We are all finishing in the same point in the end. And I really want to enjoy, but it's open you other possibility that you are not thinking of. Because I'm creating a lot of project of fun, not just CSS games. And I'm creating things, and I love to speak. And for example, for every web developer, it's good that you have a website. And why you need a website? It can be even one page. And if you are a junior web developer that still didn't work in any company, you can create your own project. It can be stuff like pure CSS game, but it can be other projects. For example, I created only for fun, a WhatsApp web fully responsive design. And you can put all your project in one page, the main page of your own website, all the project that you created for fun, but this can be kind of your own resume, because you can use it to put a URL in the resume. And you believe me, if you have a website that showing all the stuff that you've done with code, and even if it's only for fun, the resume will be more succeeding to give you more opportunities. Because if they are seeing the company seeing that you're doing nice stuff, they will want to talk with you. I'm mainly doing my own website because I love to speak. Because of that, I'm showing that I'm speaking. You don't need to put that you're speaking if you don't want to be a speaker. You can put a code example, a GitHub project. I'm writing articles. I'm putting here my articles. And this is for fun because I want to show it, that what I'm doing. Put in this main page your own website that you can create, even for one page, all the good examples that you can create in code. It can be CodePen, like a project like to create a website from scratch, fully responsive design. This will open you opportunities if you will put the link in your own resume. This is, I think, very important. And for more people that are even more practice and they are already working, of course, when you are creating projects that everyone can see them, you can benefit that more people in the world know you. And for that, we have Twitter. I think it's one of the most important thing to show what you are doing worldwide. This way people knows you, they know what you're doing. And if you have more followers because you are creating a lot of good projects, companies will look on you a lot more. Other people that maybe want to collaborate with you. If you are talking in conferences, it's saying something that you are doing a lot of public stuff. And this can help you as well. I think this is two important things that you can create from project for fun. And pure CSS game, it's maybe a really extreme example. And as I told you, I don't want you that you will create pure CSS game if you don't want. I want you to create any project. It can be, as I show you here, let's open it. And I will open it that you will see exactly what does it mean. I think that let's open it in CodePen. I think that WhatsApp Web is built very bad, the CSS and the HTML. And I wanted to create it a fully responsive design. And I just created fully responsive design. Everything here is fully responsive. It's even functional. And this is only project for fun. I think I created the HTML CSS in a lot better from $1 trillion company. And you understand that if this thing, you don't think too much, but you're doing this thing, you can be sure that the company, like now it's better, but Facebook or this company that will look on your own project because it's interesting. You are showing what you can do. And if the code is very readable and they think that everything is looking very nice, this opens you possibilities that you don't even think of.
Yeah, this is absolutely great. You get to use all of this knowledge to experiment, to try different applications, and I would assume that you're also testing out the language in itself. I mean, earlier on we did highlight that CSS is probably the most difficult programming language out there. At the same time, now I would like to ask you, right, a little bit more about your journey into CSS. Why did you pick up web development at the start, and then how'd you end up specializing in HTML and CSS? What's the story behind that?
This is it's a good question. It's a kind of a big story. When I was a lot younger, I was starting to be a web developer 15 years ago. And when I was young, I didn't think that I'm too much smart. To tell you the truth, I really thought that I'm really stupid. Really, this is what my belief when I was younger. When I was 23, 24, I wasn't good in learning stuff. I thought that I'm not good in learning stuff. And my father told me, I will pay for you anything that you want to learn. It doesn't need to be in university. Learn things for your own fun. You don't need to work in it. And I was learning how to be a coacher in the gym. And after that, I thought to myself, no, I don't like it. I want to learn other stuff. And I thought to myself, I want to build my own website. And I started to learn all this web development only for my own playing in web programming, only for fun. I didn't thought that I will work in it. I really didn't believe that I will work in this thing. But because I so enjoy doing stuff, this opened me the possibility that I'm now a web developer. It's because I so enjoyed it. If you're enjoying something, it doesn't matter if it's hard or not, because in the end, you will learn it. It doesn't matter if it takes you 1 week or 1 month or 2 months. It isn't important. When you are going to the point that you are succeeding, you're succeeding. It doesn't important how much time it takes you. And for the CSS part, I just saw from the beginning, after I started to work in a real company, it took me a lot of years, but I saw that I'm a lot better in CSS and I'm a lot enjoying to create CSS stuff. And I was a full stack that removed in the beginning the server stuff. And after that, it took me another 4 years, but every 1 year I removed a little bit and I done a lot less JavaScript. And in the end, I thought to myself, why not to do only CSS and HTML and to be more expertise in CSS architecture, because I love all the CSS architecture stuff. And I played and I try not to be afraid for my own thought and just to enjoy what you can enjoy.
Great, great. And I love what you put up there and about building your own website to become your portfolio, your calling card, your resume. For those who perhaps have yet to get this started, right? Do you think you could give us a quick, like 3-minute tour of how you started this up? What was the first thing you put up, and eventually the steps you took to building up your, I would say, your name in the industry?
Oh, I didn't try to build my name in the industry, but the story that was starting it, it was in the beginning of 2013. I was working in a company that I was doing mainly CSS, and I really work quite fast in all the CSS part. I'm finishing job so quickly that I have a lot of free time. And I was going to one wedding of my friend, and there were colleagues there that I didn't know, and they told me that I hear that I'm really good in CSS. And maybe I can help them in sometimes. And I told them, you know what? I will build a group in Facebook. You can ask their question, and in my free time, I will answer you. And before I got to sleep in the end of the day of the wedding, I told myself, why I don't do it something bigger and not just for my friends? Why not give it a name that maybe it will succeed? I will call it CSS Master Israel. And I was opening the group because I feared that I will forget it in the morning. I was opening it in the night of the end of the wedding. And in the morning, I had a lot of friends because I was working, it was 2013. I think I was working 6, 7, 8 years. I don't remember exactly. And I have a lot of friends in the web industry. And then I just added them to the group. And it started with 180 in the first week. After 2 weeks, it was 500. After 1 month, it was crossing the 1,000. And now it's 7,500 members, I think. And this was my starting point to build my name, because I help people, and I was started to write little bit articles and to publish them there, to help in the community, to write some articles. And it doesn't need to be that it will be the most important article in the world. You are learning something simple, write on it, summarize it for yourself. Try to think when you are learning a new stuff, what was hard for you to learn? Because this is a perspective that sometimes I was already losing, because I didn't write when I was starting to learn one thing in the beginning. And if you are learning something when you are a lot younger, or a young developer, you know what is the problems, and your own problems is a lot of problems of other junior web developer. And if you can solve these problems for them, you are getting to be a better web developer, and you are helping for a lot of other web developers. And of course, this is your own branding, and you don't know it even, because you are helping, and everyone started to know you. And of course of that, I continue to play more in the year, I think 2018, when I started to do public speaking. It was only for fun. Until today, it's only for fun. And I really love it, and it's fun. And it's nice that people know you. You're going now, I'm starting to jump and people knows me around the world. It's fun. It's nice. It's making you new friends. I think the best thing that I'm getting from public speaking, it doesn't that people knows me. The best thing is that I'm getting new friends all around the world. Really,
That-
I'm
That's wonderful.
looking on life like this. The money is not important for me anymore. If I will be doing a little bit more, a little bit less, I really want to enjoy, because we really, it doesn't matter how much money we will have in the end, because we will finish in the same place as I told you.
Yeah, that is right. That is right. Thank you so much for that. And I think what we'll do is that we will also move into the Q&A, but while we're transiting into that, at the beginning, ladies and gentlemen, we did have two main questions that came up about Elad, right? And the first one was that y'all thought I forgot, right? Okay. Y'all probably did. I remembered. Okay. So the first one was, all right, what was the favorite musical? Right? There were four options: Wicked, Cats, Phantom of the Opera, and Chicago. So I believe that's up on screen right now.
Yes.
Most said Phantom.
Yeah.
Is that
That's
your
because
favorite?
no, totally not. The Wicked is one of the best shows. It's a must show. It's like the Wizard of Oz in a different story. It's an amazing one. I saw it twice. I saw it one time in New York and one time in London.
Right. So is Wicked.
Wicked, yes.
Everybody got it wrong. Or most of it. Okay, only
Almost.
one person got it right.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not you, right? You
No,
didn't do the poll, right?
I didn't
Okay.
do it.
Because I'd be like, oh man, this is rigged. Okay. So the next one was, how many countries have you been to in the last 6 months?
And it was printing one plus 9 and 1 plus 8. I was, if we are counting, I was in 8 different countries instead of my own country.
Mm.
It's the total of 9 if we are counting my own country. I was in Croatia in June talking in a conference, physical one. Yes, there are little bit physical conference, little bit. And in the last 3 months, I was jumping in Europe for fun and to do some other stuff. I was in Lithuania, Latvia, Netherlands, Germany, Portugal, France, and England.
Fantastic. You see, the great thing is you got to travel, you got to move around, and were these all speaking opportunities as well?
Uh, Not exactly. In the France, it was for talking in a conference, another physical conference, and a very big one that was in France,
Mm.
in the city of Nantes. And I needed to talk in England. I came there not for talking, but then I got approved to another conference that was in London that need to be in 20th of November, but it was delayed for January. I will be there again in January. And when I was in the Netherlands, I met a lot of friends that living there, and I took my because if I'm already in the Netherlands, why not to give some talks in the tech companies there? And I gave after that free talks because the people that I was meeting there, I gave in free companies a tech talk for fun. After it was online, but it was because I was in the Netherlands.
Ah, interesting, interesting. Well, you got some fans here. One person's already. Thank you very much, Yana Script. Inviting Elad to come down to Singapore, and Philippe. I'm sorry, I do not know. I can't pronounce this. But they. Okay, I think on behalf of Serbia, you've been invited.
Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
All right.
To a conference?
Well, it says that they'd love to have your presentation. A lot of people are skillful in Serbia, so it sounds like I don't know whether he's asking you to share a presentation or it's an open challenge. I can't tell.
Okay. First, if you want to contact me, you can send me message via my Twitter account. This is my Twitter account. This is the Elad SE. Let's open the profile. It will see here. You can see the Twitter account. You can send me a message. If it's a physical conference, you can contact me. Even if it's an online thing, you can contact me as well. I will be glad. And what more?
Cool.
Yeah, contact me if you want that I will talk in a physical or online. Contact me via the message on Twitters. I will be glad to give the talk in other places in the world. I really want to be in every physical conference that I can be. in every country. And if now it's online, I will take it online as well. And for the question of Singapore, if you will, if in the next year, Geek Camp or another conference in Singapore will call me, I will be glad to talk in Singapore. I really want to be there. I never been in Singapore. I will really be glad. It really interests me to be in Singapore.
Sweet. Okay, let's go straight into the Q&A. I think quite a number of people have been waiting long enough already. I'll go straight into it. All right, Elad?
Yes, yes.
All right. So, first question that we have from the audience was, what are the common pitfalls and rookie mistakes which you have, or at least you can make when you create a pet project?
A pet project?
Like a passion project, yeah.
A project. I can say for in my game, in the beginning, I done animation on position absolute. Let's say I'm doing a animation for the top property, and it is not good to do CSS animation for position properties. It's better to do it for the transform property. This will be a lot more easier for the GPU to work, and CSS animation are quite heavy. You need to be very careful when you are doing a lot of animation in your own website. And with the transform property is better, but even then it can be quite dangerous because it can be quite slow. It's not really for making games. You need to understand that even if I created a game, it doesn't mean that it's a good for creating real games. Yes, it was only project for fun. And in Android device, in most of the Android device, still, after I was creating everything a lot better with animation on the transform property, this still was quite slow and making some problem. And I created this button that when I'm clicking on it, you see that the animation is stacking on the coronavirus creature. And in this way, in low performance devices, I can stop the animation. And in this way, it's a lot easier for the game to work.
Fantastic. And what let's assume, like, say for example, I've never worked on CSS to make a game like this, right? Maybe you could give me a couple of steps, right, real quick, about what is going to take for me to be able to create this game. Assuming I've never done CSS to make a game before.
You need to do it step by step. You can make only the label with the radio buttons and try it. Put a small visual part, let's say a box inside, and to see that it's working for you. And another thing, you can do inspect. You don't even need to do inspect element because you can see really the real code, how I'm creating it. All this code is open. And you can see it in SAS. And if you are still afraid from SAS, you can always click here in the CodePen website and to see the compiled CSS. But this will be a lot of CSS because there is a lot of repeating thing. And in the HTML part, if you are afraid, because when I see it in the first time, I was afraid from it, but it's just regular HTML. When you're compiling it, nothing special. It's really nothing special. It's look more crazy than it is. Look on projects, play with code, go to CodePen, main CodePen website, look at on other projects and start to create your own project. It doesn't need to be a game. It can be a small thing. There are a lot of really people that are playing, and because of that, people know them from this example. Let's take this. This looks cute, I think. And I'm sure that this is with SVG. Maybe it's a little more complicated SVG, but there are a lot of other stuff I would show you from my own pen. Let's see something that is more simple. Let's look at the public. Creating stuff. Let's see example. This thing is very simple. It's look crazy, but it's so simple. It's almost nothing. The example is totally almost nothing. Believe me, it's
So CodePen is open for anybody to read, right?
Yes, CodePen is open to everyone, and you can create for a public thing if you want. And this is a way to create example and to send it to a friend.
Fantastic.
Everyone can see it, and if people love it, you are getting a lot of good feedback. For example, if I will look here, You can see how much people loved it, how much people view it. This is a small example, but the game has a lot of more views. If we will look at the game itself, view in, not in editor, this is the playground that everyone's seeing, detailed views, and we will see that this game, 17,000 people saw, 17,700, 160 people loves it. One of them is Chris Corey, is the creator of CodePen and CSS tricks.
That's
And
cool.
it's fun. You are touching people, and not just people, the people that you are thinking that are most amazing people that creating codes. And believe me, it's a lot easier than you think. You're creating something nice, and you are touching people, and you don't even know that you are touching those people.
Yeah, that's amazing. And moving to the next question. Before that, ladies and gentlemen, whoever's, I would definitely take this recommendation, go into CodePen and check out all the different resources there. That is one of them. Speaking of resources, this goes to the next question. All right. Could you give us the top 3 resources to learn SCSS?
Oh, this is a good question. I think one of them is the SCSS website itself. I think if we look on SAS, I think the documentation in SAS is quite good. I have a talk on SAS, but it's in Hebrew, it's not in English. Because of that, I'm not recommending it. But here, learning SAS, and I was learning from the documentation. It was really nice documentation. It's not something too much complicated. You see example, you can see it how it's written in CSS and how you can write it in SAS. And we are saying SAS, but we are meaning SCSS. SAS is without brackets, but everyone says SAS and are now meaning SCSS. And I think this is one of the best example. The SAS language website itself.
Is this the top resource that you would recommend?
Yes, this is the real website where you of the SAS. Yes, it's their own website.
Great. All right. So, okay, we are coming to a close, and remember that for those who are in attendance, also, okay, you can also test your level of skills over at hackertrail.com. All right. So on top of CodePen, try hackertrail.com too. Okay. So that being said, I think we're gonna have to put the Q&A to a close, and do take note that if there are any questions that are unanswered, visit the Hackertrail community on hackertrail.com, and Elad will also be answering those questions there. Okay, and thank you so much, Elad, for sharing with us how you created this awesome game on CSS, Corona Invaders, all the way from basically from scratch, right? And it definitely highlights the creativity and also the technical skills and your passion to be able to share this with all of us. We have run out of time for questions. And again, if you have any questions to ask Elad, go ahead and join hackertrail.com. Before we actually close off the session, do us a favor, please help us complete this short poll. All right, remember, completing this poll also entitles you a chance to participate and stand a chance to win an exclusive coaching session with Elad himself. Okay, so that being said, sorry, it's a survey. I'm sorry, it is not a poll. The link is sorry, is this do we have the survey, please? Okay, in the meantime, while that's happening, okay, ladies and gentlemen, remember, please join the Hackertrail community. Go to hackertrail.com, join us, and also stay tuned to the details of our next session and check out our website and social media for more pages. And please follow Elad as well. Connect with him, CodePen, Medium, Twitter, he's there. Okay, so with that, on behalf of Elad and the Hackertrail community or crew who is working on this, thank you so much for being here tonight, And my name is Edric, and we're out. Good night.